All right. So this is what's going to happen. This conversation will be a back and forth, one question to one question. Answer your question, ask your question, let the other one answer the question, and back and forth. Let's not run on with long explanations. Do not come back, either one of you, come back with a question to the question. So, Chris,
Can I make a proposal?
yes,
I'm happy to say that if ask and answer a question, when the question's done, we say done. I trust Jay, if it's the same thing, that we're just covering the same ground and going back to the same arguments, it's pointless. But I'm happy to have the conversation. I guess what I'm asking for is proof of the Christian God. And what I've heard so far is, well, if you don't believe in the Christian God, you can't have a grounding. So you can't, that's not going to get us anywhere. Let's tackle it from a historical point of view. I'm happy to do that.
Are you okay with that, Duncan?
Okay. What I said was earlier that I gave a reductio ad absurdum as the proof for the Christian God. Are you familiar with what a reductio ad absurdum is?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Reductio ad absurdum is a type of indirect and direct line of reasoning that the proposition is presented, and the denial or non-acceptance of the proposition leads to unintelligibility and incoherency, establishing the proposition. A reductio ad absurdum is a valid line of reasoning, not only in courts of law, but in history, as well in philosophy. So I would assume that you would not reject the principle of a reductio ad absurdum. So the reductio ad absurdum that I presented is that the lack of belief, non-acceptance of the revelation of the Christian God, which would include his properties and attributes, will result in unintelligibility. Means that anything you say will not be grounded. It will end up being arbitrary. So since you do not accept the evidence that has been presented of the natural and special revelation of the Christian God and his attributes, that he's the necessary prerequisite for intelligibility, then what is the foundation of any of your reasoning that would provide for evidence or justification? What in your worldview would prescribe what is possible or impossible at all without the Christian God?
Is that a question or?
Yeah, since you do not accept that the Christian God is the necessary precondition, the revelation presented, then you are presuming that you have grounds for intelligibility. In order to have intelligibility,
all right, stop,
you're going to. I'd like to finish my sentence. I'd like to finish my sentence. You're cut.
Yes, I cut you off because you're running on. You asked a question. He asked to verify it. You verify it and then continued going on. You've got to let the other person a chance to speak also. You cannot hog the entire conversation. You asked your question. Your question was in there. He asked for a clarification, and then you just kept running on. Keep it short. Keep it simple. We don't want monologue questions. We need a question to be answered.
So upon rejecting the Christian God, what prescribes any possibility? Yeah. There's the question.
So the question is, upon rejecting the Christian God, well, I haven't rejected the Christian God.
You absolutely have.
I haven't.
Sure you have. Okay, what you're not understanding is if you lack belief in a worldview via the law of excluded middle, it is a rejection and a denial. Okay, the law of do you know what the law of excluded middle is?
It doesn't matter how you want to frame it. I'm telling you, I have not rejected the Christian God.
Okay. Do you know what the law of excluded middle is?
I don't care what it is. It doesn't,
Duncan, you've asked your question. He's answered it. Now let's have Chris a chance to ask a question back.
Okay. Why could I not use the same arguments you're using now for Hinduism, Islam, or any other?
You're breaking up.
What I'm saying is,
you're breaking up.
No.
Can you hear me, Jay?
I can hear you. You're fine.
Okay. So if it doesn't come through, I'll put it in the chat.
You're good now.
Okay. What my question is, the argument you're using, why could that argument not be used for any number of other religions? What makes Christianity special as opposed to the other ones? And starting with the assumption that Christianity is true or the God of the Bible is true is only going to lead you to one path. A Muslim will start with the presumption that the God of the Quran is true. Allah is the true God. You know, Scientologists believe in Lord Zenu. You know, the Hindus in Krishna, Rama, Vishnu. So, I mean, that can go on and on. What makes your religion and your particular belief and Yahweh, the thunder god of the ancient Hebrews, the one true God? Where's the evidence for that?
All right, go ahead, Duncan.
Okay, there's two quick answers. One is none of them have the requisite property set that is required for human intelligibility, all of the Christian God's attributes, and specifically, none of them can solve the philosophical problem of the one and the many, which must be solved in order to have metaphysical intelligibility.
Okay, that's only according to your worldview, though. A Muslim would come from a worldview saying that only Allah can fulfill that.
Okay, how does Allah solve the one and the many problem?
I don't think Allah does. I don't think your God does either.
Well, if Allah doesn't solve the one and many problem, he wouldn't have the requisite basis for human intelligibility.
Okay, neither does. But I'm saying, well, neither does your God. Your God is no different to Allah. Your God is no different to any of the other gods.
So the Christian God doesn't solve the one and the many problem?
I don't think the Christian God exists. So no.
No, I'm talking about conceptually. You reject the notion. Okay, so the Christian God does not exist. What I find interesting is what you're advocating here is pluralism, that the Christian God is not the only grounds for intelligibility, but you don't believe in these gods. So positing other worldviews while speaking out of your own worldview is actually a logical contradiction and incoherent.
But what I did say is, for the sake of the argument, I was prepared to say, all right, let's assume that there is a God.
But you don't.
Now we need the evidence. No, I don't. Absolutely, I don't.
Good. Then we both agree that those worldviews do not exist. So right now it's my worldview versus your worldview. For you to appeal to any other worldview is a contradiction in terms, because when you speak, whatever propositions you utter will be viable and intelligible with respect to your worldview. You cannot speak other worldviews because it'll contradict your world. That's a fallacy of pluralism.
I can understand other worldviews, though. And for the sake of moving the conversation, because we weren't getting anywhere earlier, and Jay said that we weren't getting anywhere, so we moved the conversation on.
Yeah. So those other worldviews would be false. Where else can we move it to? May I finish, please? So all those other I'd like to finish, please.
It's a delay. It's a delay. I'm on the other side of the planet. I wasn't speaking over you. It sounded like that. We probably spoke at the same time. There's a delay. I'm quite literally on the other side of the planet. So just be mindful of that.
Okay. You're committing an elementary philosophical error here. You're committing what I call the fallacy of pluralism. Out of your worldview, okay, you're offering other worldviews as potential actuals. That is a logical contradiction.
Can I talk? No, I'm not actually offering them as other worldviews. Or actually, sorry, they are other worldviews. I don't hold them to be true. They may be. I don't know. Once again, I'm happy to hear evidence for any worldview if there is.
No, they can't be.
According to your
worldview. No, according to your worldview.
Why? You don't know what my worldview is.
All right. Well, I guess you don't understand. I guess you don't understand the concept of worldviews. A worldview will be all-encompassing, with a primary where everything else is secondary. Okay. Nope. May I finish? A worldview is the collection or spider's web of all your beliefs. Among those beliefs, it is going to be something that is foundational from which all your other beliefs derive. Because if that's not the case, then your worldview will be a world of chance where you have no grounding for anything. Then you wouldn't be able to say what is or is not. Now, when we speak from our respective worldviews, okay, your worldview is by default contradictory to every other worldview that's not yours. The same would be true of my worldview. To offer other worldviews, to speak out of your worldview that another worldview is a potential actual, is an absolute contradiction to your worldview. So right now, We're dealing with the Christian worldview to whatever worldview you're speaking from as an atheist. You cannot logically, let me finish. You cannot logically and coherently offer another worldview that is not your own. Okay? That's a fallacy. Let me finish.
I did offer another worldview that wasn't my own before. I don't believe
They-
it. But,
they-
hang on, no, you're talking over me now. What is my worldview? Because how do you know what my worldview is?
Okay, your worldview is not the Christian worldview.
Well, that leaves it very, very open. Your worldview is not the Islamic worldview.
That's correct.
That doesn't define what your worldview is. That just
Right,
defines
but
one
my
aspect of
worldview
it.
has specificity. Yours doesn't. You have no grounding to say anything.
You don't know what my worldview is. So because I don't prescribe to your worldview,
Well, tell me what your
I'm
worldview is.
ultimately wrong.
Tell me what
sorry.
your worldview is.
No, this is my question. So what you're saying is because I don't prescribe to your worldview, which is the only worldview that can possibly be true, according to what you're saying, my worldview doesn't matter, and that's that. That's what I'm hearing. That's just ridiculous. That's actually a pointless conversation, because if you're starting from, well, I'm right and you're wrong, and no matter what you say, I'm right and you're wrong. Well, how are we going to have a conversation?